Good day, everybody. My name is Suzanne Gelderblom. I'm one of the psychologists that works at Stabilis Treatment Center. Last week, I spoke to you about codependency and the impact that substance abuse has on the family and their reaction to it. Today, I'd like to continue to talk about some of the roles that I didn't have time to discuss last week. So I'm going to go ahead and start discussing some of them. The first one would be the role of the loner. The loner is very often the spouse of the substance abuser that after trying several things and realizing that I'm not necessarily getting any success from this, they then distance themselves from their spouse and they go it alone. So they start to become involved in more things outside of the home environment in order to spend less time at home and to hopefully get their spouse to realize, well, I'm carrying on with my life. I'm continuing with things to keep me busy. And I'm going to leave you behind, and you can continue drinking or using your substance. I'm not willing to be part of that anymore. The hope, obviously, there is that this person would then wake up and realize that I need to quit or I need to go and seek help. Unfortunately, that is very often not the reaction that you get from the person abusing the substance, because they inevitably feel rejected and not good enough. And then what is the easiest way and the quick fix to deal with those emotions is to, yet again, unfortunately, use the substance to either suppress the emotion of feeling rejected, not good enough, or to otherwise escape that reality and not have to deal with it. So unfortunately, to go to the route of doing the loner, you're not going to necessarily get the desired reaction either, because your spouse, the one that is abusing the substance, will not necessarily use less of the substance at that stage. Then we get the joiner. This is again the family member, most often again the spouse of the substance abuser. And what happens here is we get two types of joiners. We get the one that would physically join you in abusing the substance. So they would start either drinking with you or abusing drugs with you in order, at the one end, in order to get control of the situation, because if I'm also using, then there's hopefully less for you to use, but also because they've sort of given up. They have arrived at the place where they say, well, if I can't beat this, let me join it. And they also want to, at some level, show their spouse how it looks when you are actually constantly under the influence, hopefully to get them to be shocked enough to again realize that they need to quit and they need to seek help. The other joiner that we get is the one that doesn't necessarily start to use with you, but they've also arrived, unfortunately, at a place where they say, well, if I can't beat this, let me join it, and therefore I'll allow it. I'm not going to fight it anymore. I'm not going to go into confrontations and arguments about the use or the abuse of the substance, but I would rather try and negotiate with my spouse, for instance, saying, you know what, if you want to use, I'm not going to tell you to not use. I'm not going to beg and plead with you anymore. It's fine. You can come and use, but just do it within a safe environment, which would be at home, where you don't have to get behind the wheel and then drive under the influence. So they've sort of accepted this is as good as it's going to get, but they're still trying to manage the situation so that it doesn't get out of hand. I think this speaks for itself in why it would be enabling, because you are actually allowing it. You are saying it's okay as long as it is within these boundaries. But what you, as the family member or the spouse, obviously don't realize is that at this stage, the substance has taken so much control um, with the individual abusing the substance, but also within the family system, that you can't really decide how and when it's going to happen. The substance will decide that for you. So, unfortunately, again, only enabling the substance abuser to continue with their abuse of the substance. Then we'll move over to the role of mostly the children. So the children often take in the role of the scapegoat, the overachiever, and the overresponsible. The scapegoat, at Stabilis, we often also refer to them as the rebels, um, or the clowns. So what they often do is they are hostile in their behavior. They are difficult at school. They become bullies at school. They don't necessarily apply to the rules at school and at home. So they have acting out behavior, which makes it difficult to live with them. But this is unfortunately their only hope to get some kind of attention or some kind of involvement with them. Because they are often in trouble at school, they are often in trouble at home, but they are so desperate just for some kind of attention or involvement with them. How is this enabling? It's enabling because very often the substance abuser would use the behavior of the scapegoat or the rebel to justify or rationalize their abuse of the substance. You know, they would say, well, I'm sitting at home with a very difficult child that has behavioral problems, that's acting out most of the time, that we have phone calls and complaints about on several occasions from the school, and I just don't know how to cope with this. And me and my wife, or me and my husband, is not in agreement in terms of how to deal with this. So my only way of managing this or coping with this is to have a drink or a pill every now and again, just to cope with this difficult child. Then we get the overachiever. The overachiever, again, is the child in the relationship or in the family system where there is substance abuse going on. They feel neglected. They have this huge need for attention and for some kind of involvement with either parent, because we have to now realize that the parent that is not abusing the substance, their attention is mostly with the parent who is abusing the substance, because they are constantly dealing with the crises or the unsurety as to where is this going to go to, and the child feels neglected. So what they often do is they would spend a tremendous amount of time behind their closed bedroom door, studying, doing homework, maybe even spending time after school in order to achieve at school, whether it is on academic level or on sports field, because this is the only way that they either get teachers or their parents involved, and they get the attention that they need so badly. So you may ask me, how is this enabling? It's enabling because, unfortunately, yet again, the substance abuser will use the behavior of the overachiever child to rationalize that if there's such a huge problem in our family system, and if my drinking or my use of drugs or medication is affecting our children to such an extent, why are they overachieving at school? Why are they getting these good grades and why are they achieving it on the sports field. So they rationalize it, they minimize their problem, and they just continue using the substance because they can't see that there's necessarily a problem in their opinion. Then we get the overresponsible child. The overresponsible child is the child that very soon has realized that I cannot count on this parent of mine that is constantly abusing a substance. So they tend to take over the role that this parent should be playing in the family. For instance, if it is the mother, they would make sure that lunch boxes are packed, that their siblings are woken up to finish, to be on time for school. They would make sure that their siblings' homework is done, that the house is clean before dad gets home. Because if dad gets home and the house is not clean and the food is not on the table yet, then there's going to be conflict and arguments again, which they don't like and which they want to avoid at all costs. So they tend to take over most of the responsibilities of the absent parent. And in doing so, it is enabling because at the end of the day, the parent that is abusing a substance can just justify what they're doing and saying that there is no problem. You have food on the table every night. The house is clean, homework is done, the kids are bathed, etc. So me having a glass of wine whilst I'm cooking, what is the problem? But what the other parent doesn't know is that it was, in actual fact, one of the children that had taken over all of these responsibilities. Lastly, we get the role of the intervener. The role of the intervener is the only positive role that we find within all of the codependent roles, because this is the person that has actually arrived at a place where they've maybe read up about substance dependency, they've spoken to some people, and they have come to the realization that what I'm doing is not helping. It is, in fact, enabling my partners or my spouse to continue with their substance abuse, and in the meantime, the family is suffering. So what the intervener then does is they call for an intervention after they may have spoken to a rehabilitation facility or to their general practitioner or to a minister of the church, where they've actually been able to get advice from people outside of the family system who is unbiased and neutral and objective, and that who can give them the right advice and make them realize that it is not within their means to stop the problem, but that there is actually professional help in the form of multidisciplinary help needed, and where they then plan to get some kind of a intervention together where a lot of significant others come together and they speak to the family member who is abusing the substance and eventually gets this person to agree to go for treatment. And this is where the good things start to happen, where the patient or the person, the family member that has been abusing the substance gets the opportunity to fix what the substance have actually damaged to a large extent, to fix their relationships, to fix the trust relationship between family members, to get clean, to sober up, to understand their problem, to gain insight into their substance abuse, and to, at the end of the day, at the end of their intervention and their treatment, to hopefully be able to stand tall, feel empowered enough to go out and face the challenges that their reality will give them, and to maintain sobriety. I hope you found this interesting and that it will help you to understand some of the things going on in your family system, perhaps, and to realize that your control lies not in trying to manage the problem or trying to fix the problem, but rather to support your family member to seek help and to go for treatment as soon as possible. Thank you, good day, and goodbye.